Ready to launch into a new deep dive? Forget spaceships. This one's about to send your mind into orbit.
We're in for a wild ride then.
Totally. We're talking transcendental space exploration. Not just rockets and aliens, but how exploring the universe and exploring our own consciousness could be like two sides of the same coin.
It's a whole different way of thinking about space exploration, that's for sure.
Right. And the source material you sent over. Mind. Blown. So I'm already hooked, and I know our listeners are going to be too.
Yeah.
Basically, it's saying that the drive to explore space, it's not just about curiosity or finding new planets.
It goes deeper than that.
Way deeper. It's tied to the evolution of how we think, of human consciousness itself. Like, the more we understand ourselves, the more we're driven to explore the universe.
Exactly. The source material you sent over, it argues that evolution, it's not just about getting smarter or building better tech. It's about expanding our consciousness, our awareness of ourselves and the universe around us.
Okay, so how does that even work? Does that mean, like, someday we'll be piloting starships with our minds?
Haha, well, maybe not exactly. But the source does present human history in a really interesting way. It's like a spiral staircase, winding upwards through different stages of awareness, different levels of consciousness.
A spiral staircase of consciousness.
Ah.
Okay, you've officially piqued my curiosity. Where does this staircase begin? What's step one?
It all starts with something pretty basic, something we can all relate to: survival. The first stage is all about survival in the tribe.
Okay, so like early humans banding together for safety, for food, all that.
Exactly. Think about those early humans, huddled around a fire, relying on each other to survive. That primal need for belonging, for connection, it's deeply rooted in us, even today.
It's funny how even now, with billions of people on the planet, we still crave that sense of belonging. We form our own tribes, whether it's online communities or interest groups, or even just our close circle of friends.
That's exactly what the source is getting at. That need, it never really goes away. It just kind of morphs and changes as we evolve. And that brings us to the next step on the staircase.
Okay, so we've gone from caves to the internet, I guess. What comes after the tribe?
Stage 2, domination and expansion. This is where things start to get interesting. We see the rise of agriculture, permanent settlements, civilizations.
And empires.
Exactly. Empires are a perfect example of stage 2. They were all about expanding their territory, their influence, their control.
The Roman Empire, the Mongols, those were some ambitious expansion projects.
Right. And they all eventually crumbled. That's part of the cycle too. But the source argues that even in those empires, even with all that striving for power, something else was happening.
Like what?
Think about the development of writing. It might seem small, but it was huge. For the first time, humans could record their thoughts, their ideas, their stories. And those stories could be shared across time and distance.
So while these empires were busy conquering land, humanity was also, in a way, expanding its consciousness.
Precisely. And that expansion, that search for something more, something beyond just survival and power, it leads us to stage 3, religion and order.
So from empires to faith, how does that fit into the grand scheme of things?
It's about finding meaning, finding order in a world that can often feel chaotic. After the rise and fall of empires, people were searching for something bigger than themselves, something to believe in.
Right, like a shared set of values or beliefs that could connect people, even across different lands and cultures.
And that's a key idea here. Each stage of this spiral, it builds on the one before it. It's not like we just abandon one way of thinking and adopt a new one. It's more like layers of a cake.
Okay, I can get behind that analogy. So we've got the need for belonging, the drive to expand, the search for meaning. What's the next layer on this cosmic cake?
This is where things start to get really interesting, because stage 4 is all about reason and enlightenment. It's a turning point, a shift from seeking answers in something outside ourselves to looking inward, but also pushing the boundaries of what we know about the universe around us.
Okay, now you've really got my attention. Tell me more about this reason and enlightenment bonus.
Think about figures like Galileo, Copernicus. They challenged the traditional view of the universe, not based on blind faith, but through observation, through logic, through a desire to understand the world around them.
And they paid the price for it, too. Going up against the established dogma at the time, that was risky business.
Exactly. But that's also the spirit of the stage. It's about questioning, exploring, not taking anything for granted. And the source argues that this quest for knowledge, this embrace of reason. It wasn't a rejection of spirituality. It was a different kind of exploration.
So instead of just looking up to the heavens for answers, we started looking out at the universe, but with a new set of tools, a new way of thinking.
Exactly. And this shift towards reason, towards scientific inquiry, it lays the foundation for the world we live in today, for stage 5, which the source calls globalization and technology.
Okay, now that sounds very familiar. We're living in it. The internet, smartphones, instant global communication. It's like science fiction, but it's real life.
Right. It's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it. And that incredible connecting power, that's stage 5 in a nutshell. We can share ideas, collaborate, even build movements across continents, all at lightning speed.
I think we're all plugged into this global brain, this collective network of information and experience. But if we're being honest, it doesn't always feel very enlightened, you know?
And that's the catch, isn't it? The source acknowledges the incredible potential of stage 5, but it also highlights a darker side. It's like every yin has its yang.
So what's the shadow side of all this amazing technology, this global interconnectedness?
Well, for one thing, it can be incredibly distracting. We're constantly bombarded with information, with notifications, with demands for our attention.
Oh, tell me about it. My phone is a never-ending source of distraction. And don't even get me started on social media.
Exactly. And that constant stimulation, it can keep us from going deeper, from connecting with ourselves and with each other on a more meaningful level. The source calls this the black aspect of stage 5. It's like we're so busy connecting with everyone and everything out there that we forget to connect with what's in here.
So we're more connected than ever, but also, in a way, more disconnected.
Exactly. And that tension, that paradox, it's not a bug, it's a feature. It's what pushes us to the next level, to stage 6.
Okay, I'm ready for stage 6. What's the next step on our evolutionary journey? What comes after all this technology and globalization?
Stage 6 is where things get really interesting. The source calls it inner exploration and unified perception.
Inner exploration. So it's not about spaceships anymore. It's about spaceships of the mind.
In a way, yes. It's about shifting our focus from the outer world to the inner world. It's about exploring the vast, uncharted territories of our own consciousness.
Okay, I have to admit, this is a little out there, even for me. How does this inner exploration thing work? Are we talking about meditation? Yoga?
It could be those things, but it's bigger than that. The source describes it as a fundamental shift in how we experience reality, a move from a fragmented, ego-driven perception to a more unified, interconnected way of being.
So instead of seeing ourselves as separate individuals, we start to see the interconnectedness of all things.
Exactly. And not just intellectually, but on a deeper level. Imagine a state of being where you can actually feel the interconnectedness of all things, where the boundaries between you and the rest of the universe start to dissolve.
Whoa, okay. Now you're really blowing my mind. But I like it. It's like all this technology, all this globalization, it's been leading us to this point, this moment where we can finally start to explore the most fascinating frontier of all, ourselves.
And not just ourselves, but the very nature of consciousness itself. The source suggests that as we evolve, our definition of exploration will evolve with us. We won't just be exploring physical space, we'll be exploring inner space, pushing the boundaries of what it means to be human.
So the real journey isn't out there among the stars, it's within us. I like that. It's a good reminder, especially in a world that's so focused on the external, on what's next, on what's out there. But if this inner exploration is stage 6, where do we go from there? Is there a stage 7? What comes after we've explored the furthest reaches of our own consciousness?
You're full of questions today. And the good news is, so is the source material. It definitely hints at even more profound stages of evolution, stages that are really hard to grasp with our current understanding, stages where humanity merges with the very essence of reality.
Okay, now you're just messing with me. But seriously, are we talking about, like, transcending this physical plane entirely?
It's hard to say for sure. The source gets wonderfully vague in these later stages. It throws around terms like post-egoic evolution and unity with the cosmic principle.
Post-egoic evolution, huh? Sounds intense.
It's like trying to describe a new color to someone who's only ever seen black and white. You know, we just don't have the language for it yet.
Okay, color me intrigued, but definitely a little lost. I think what's tripping me up is we've been talking about this whole spiral staircase of human evolution. If stage 6 is about reaching this incredible state of interconnected awareness, what's left to climb towards? Where do you even go from there?
And that's the brilliant thing about the source material. It makes you question your whole idea of what evolution is. It challenges that linear way of thinking.
So it's less about reaching the top of the staircase and more about,
It's about expanding what's possible. Reaching stage 6, this harmonization with cosmic consciousness, it's not an ending. It's a beginning to a whole new set of possibilities that we can barely even fathom right now.
so it's not about reaching a destination, but about constantly expanding, evolving, almost like the universe itself is constantly expanding.
Exactly. It's like we become more than human, but not in a way that we can easily define or understand from our current perspective.
Okay, I can kind of wrap my head around that,
Right.
but it's still pretty abstract. I think what our listeners want to know is, what does this all mean for us here and now? We're still in stage 5, dealing with our smartphones and our daily grind. How do we even begin to approach these higher levels of consciousness?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And thankfully, the source does offer some guidance. It suggests that practices like mindfulness, compassion, cultivating a deep appreciation for the interconnectedness of all things, these aren't just New Age buzzwords.
They're like training for our consciousness.
Exactly. We're building the muscles for a climb we can't even fully imagine yet, so that by the time we as a species reach that next stage, we're ready for it.
That's a pretty empowering thought. So maybe true space exploration isn't about building bigger and better rockets, but about cultivating a deeper understanding of ourselves and the universe we inhabit.
Perhaps it's both. Maybe technology and consciousness will evolve together in ways we can't even imagine.
Now that is an exciting thought. Well, dear listeners, we've journeyed from the dawn of humanity to the edge of cosmic consciousness. And I don't know about you, but I am definitely feeling the need to meditate on all of this.
Take a walk, connect with nature. Remember, the most important exploration happens within.
Beautifully put. Till next time, keep diving.